the wild and woolly, extra hairy movie edition of Take a Look. First up, the iconic monster movie must-see. Jason Blum produced Wolfman. We'll chat with Ozark's Julia Garner and the cast about this must-see shiny coat reboot.
Do I look like a pop star to you?
Speaking of shiny coats, why is the pop star Robbie Williams represented as a chimp in Better Men? We don't care, because it's awesome. Why critics and audiences alike are bananas about it. We'll chat with the cast and crew of the award show, darling, as we take a look. Let's do it. Let's take a look. Welcome to the show where we talk about movies on the biggest screens, the smallest screens, every kind of screen, streaming series and movies. We would be remiss if we didn't start the show right now, but talk about the matters at hand. Fire's still burning, so thank you so much to the first responders. Thank you so much to the men and women and everybody helping out in this time of need. You can help out too. Text 90999. That's it right there. 90999. Right now, the word Red Cross to that number, and boom, you'll make a donation. That's simple. One good thing is, like I said, to see all these people coming together, helping out, and that's what we need to do. Speaking of coming together, it's my good friend, Lindsay Nader. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Speaking of being well, so you've got friends and family around the area. Everybody okay?
Yes, everybody is okay. Unfortunately, a few friends did lose their homes. Some family members were evacuated but brought back. They're safe, but it is incredible to watch people come together.
Yeah, last we talked, all eyes were on Grandma. She got out okay?
She's
Everything's okay.
She's good.
All right, right on. So we also, need to talk about the fact that movies are inexplicably tied to L.A. We need to support them. Two of the movies we're talking about today, their premieres were canceled, both Wolfman and Better Men.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, so that's what we can do to put people butts in seats. Go see these movies like Wolfman. How much did you love this movie?
Oh my gosh, Mark, I am not a thriller horror girly.
I know, like to drag you to it.
I did this for you, but also I am a huge Julia Garner fan. I fell in love with her through Ozark, and I'll pretty much watch her do anything. So I was still engaged in watching from my neighbor's window, kind of like this.
Yeah. Ruth is not a shallow character to play as she did in Ozark, and the same with this character, right?
Yes, she brought all the depth, the intensity, incredibly compelling.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about Ozark, a lot of running. Take a look. Nice to see you.
Hi, good to see you.
You look infinitely better than you did the last time I saw you, which was in this.
Oh my God.
Under a little duress.
I was like, wait, did I meet you before and did I look like insane?
No, it's not like I saw you at the restaurant last night. No, in this.
Like, was I crying somewhere? But I was crying in this. Okay, good.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
So many people that have made horror movies say there's nothing horrific when you're in the middle of it. It just seems kind of awkward. With that said, a lot of this looks creepy and dark. Was it scary?
It was scary and it was really hard. I mean, it was a good shoot, but it wasn't an easy shoot. It wasn't like, oh yeah, this is like a carefree kind of headspace. I mean, it was very tense, very heavy. I was crying and hyperventilating pretty much for like 3 months, straight, and running. Yeah, but it was, hopefully it's worth it, so.
It's amazing. It's an instant classic. I love so much about it. I could talk to you for like 10 hours about this, dissecting it. So long before we get to the big over-the-top horror, there's great action in this. Yeah. You're suspended in this automobile accident in the van. Talk about the rigging of that.
That was crazy. When I saw it first before getting into the car, it was like wild, but we did have a rehearsal. So we kind of did like a rigging, rehearsal on it, and we were sideways. And I actually had fun doing that. That's kind of fun because I don't get to do that every day.
It's like a jungle gym.
It is like a jungle gym. I had more fun doing that than like running, and I was running for most of this job.
A lot of running. I'm trying to think. In Ozark, you did some running in Ozark?
I did running in Ozark. In Ozark, I was always holding a gun. I feel like, anyway, more than this.
So when you're holding the gun, you're not obligated to run quite as much.
Yeah, well, no, exactly, because you have the power in the situation. So, yeah.
Do you have a favorite scene, without plot spoiling, that 10, 20 movies from now, you're going to look back and go, that was a scene. I love doing that on the day. Probably not one where you're running.
No, that's so hard to pick because a lot of the times I don't remember what I do, or I try not to remember.
Sure.
Because that means that if I remember every little moment, I wasn't like in the moment within the scene. So it's hard for me to pick. But I have like some parts that I connect to more than others, for sure.
Awesome. You know, old school actors from last century, a lot of them would say, never work with kids, never work with animals. Well, here you're working with a wolf, and your co-star in this movie is amazing. What a delight she must have been to work with.
Well, I love all those old school actors, but I'm going to have to disagree because I feel like kids make you better actors.
In what way?
Well, you're more present. You're more present because there's nothing more present than a child or an animal. Like, you have to really live in the moment, and you know, it can never get too heavy because you also have to be sensitive that you do have a kid around. So I like working with kids. I think they're super funny. So yeah,
Well, she was,
they're the best.
She was amazingly
Yeah, she's
great.
incredible in it. So
As are you.
Yes,
Nice to
thank
see
you
you.
so
Cheers.
much.
Thanks for your
Thank
time.
you.
She is so good. I couldn't help but think about you during this movie because as much as you hate horror movies, did you connect to the fact that at the end of the day, it's this mother-daughter against the world?
Absolutely. And it is this female-forward performance. It's so powerful. And also just the intensity of the level of fitness that it takes also to pull off
A lot of running, a lot of cardio.
Yes.
Exactly. And I love the fact that she said in Ozark, she just kind of stood there holding a gun. In this, she was running. There are scenes where she's running and holding a gun, which, by the way, kids, don't try that at home if your father becomes a werewolf, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Intense because it's written and directed by Lee Winnell, who also brought you Insidious, Saw, and directed The Invisible Man, which is also a reboot, much like this. Coming up next, where would a Wolfman movie be without the Wolfman? Coming up next, behind the scenes, how this came to life, why it is the best adaptation of this story ever, with the man who is a wolf, next. Hey, welcome back. It is Take a Look. Thanks for hanging out. I want to shout out all of the first responders taking care of those fires. We appreciate you so much. If you can, help out when you can. And also to the people serving America in 177 different countries and territories worldwide. Thanks for watching on AFN. With that said, I'm Marcus Allen, Lindsay Nader. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you are a trooper because I know how much you hate horror movies, so let's get this one out of the way, okay?
We're not going to talk about the scene.
Oh,
are
yeah,
we?
exactly, because we're talking about the man behind the wolf man, and yeah, we're talking about that scene. Yeah, you probably don't want to see this movie if you've just gone to dinner and probably don't want to eat just after it, but there is some eating taking place in this movie, and I talked to Christopher Abbott about that and more. Take a look. How are you?
Good, pal. How
Good
are
to
you?
see
Good
you.
to see you.
Congrats on this.
Thank you.
I mean, Lon Chaney Jr., Jeff Goldblum in The Fly, a
Yeah.
long list of people that have hit these notes. You deserve this. You're awesome.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, that's a good reference. The Fly was an inspiration for me for this one. I mean, obviously very different, but the transformation process and like the pace of that process in The Fly was sort of, I think, quite similar to this movie.
Yeah, there's a humanity in it. You start to feel
That's
a little
right.
bit of sympathy behind those eyes.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it's a horror film. It has all like the horror bells and whistles, but for me as an actor, I was drawn to the tragedy of it, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
There's a kind of childlike quality that most actors that I know that do it well bring along with them. When you were a little kid, did you love to play monsters? Is this the fulfillment of a childhood dream?
Well, I mean, yeah, exactly right. I mean, you have to sort of go back to that. You know what I mean? I think actors nowadays, especially, and myself, sort of get trapped in like a bit of a subtlety loop. You know what I mean? And this one, it sort of forces your hand to sort of act out a little bit, and that felt good.
It works so well. Are there times where you think you're overacting and you say, "No, I need more. Go bigger."
Every day. Yeah, every day. Well, no, but it's true. You gotta go for it. You know. Yeah.
You know, actors are always talking about, chemistry on the set, how they got along.
Yeah.
I heard you say something that's brilliant. And like, speaking of people that have done what you've done, extensive prosthetics, I've never heard this before. You talked about how important it was to have chemistry with those people applying it because you're spending the bulk of the day with them.
No, you become. I mean, it's like we're a strange throuple. You know what I mean? Like we spend a lot of time together. We're there, we're there earlier than the crew is because you have to get ready and then be ready for once shooting starts. So it's quiet. You're there alone. It's dark usually because it's 4 a.m., 5 a.m. or something like that. So you have to play music. Pam, who was one of the co-designers, saged and lit. She created the mood. It was a good feeling.
So important. Like, you don't get along with like Stu over there in craft services. It's fine. You grab your trail mix and run. But these people, you gotta love.
I get along with Stu too. Stu has the nuts, the coffee. I like Stu.
He is phenomenal.
Yeah.
All right. So years from now, when this movie is celebrated, is an instant classic. What is going to be the scene of the moment that you're most proud of?
Well, the scene that I don't know if this is any spoiler, but the scene that people seem to be gravitating towards a lot is this. I guess a scene where I'm chewing on my own arm. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I just had my breakfast. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. I think people seem to like that. So if that lives on and whatever, my canon of work, then so be it.
Yeah, if Goldblum's work inspired you, and we always remember like parts falling off, that is the moment in this movie where you realize it's that level of excellence.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
And I never have asked an actor this before, but what do you taste like? Are you a little gamey?
Well, I was a little sweet. A little sour,
right?
Yeah, it was. But all that prosthetic stuff there's a lot of sugar in it. You know what I mean? So you get a little hopped up, which was appropriate for that scene.
Right. And then you have the sugar crash that might play into the next thing.
That's right. Go take a nap.
No joke, man. It is brilliant. As are you.
Appreciate
Good
it.
to see you.
Yeah, nice one. Appreciate it.
What's wrong with Daddy?
He got sick.
Please, Dad, you're scaring me! Blake, stop!
So very good. At the same time, she goes, "It's scaring me." You were saying, "It's scaring me."
It's scaring me.
Yeah, that one scene. And I love that because, I went out on a reach when I said I compare your performance to that of Jeff Goldblum in The Fly. And I thought he'd go, what are you talking about? But I love that he said, yeah, it's kind of what I was going for.
Yeah, well, I loved his performance in the, Emma Stone movie, Poor Things.
Oh, my gosh. Wait, you said you don't like horror movies. That's not exactly a horror movie, but there are parts that aren't easy to watch.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, but I digress. Now, we're going to move past the horror movies. You ready?
Sure.
All right, Better Man, coming up in a moment. Did you love it?
I loved it.
And I'll tell you why you're going to love this movie. At first glance, a biopic about a UK performer you might not have heard of being done by a CG chimp. It works. Trust us. We'll tell you why next. Hey, there you are. Come on in. It's Take a Look. We're about halfway through, but you caught the best half because we're talking about Better Man. I'm Marcus Allen, my friend Lindsay Nader. How you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
All right, so Better Man. What should we know?
Oh, incredible film. This is the same director as The Greatest Showman, Michael Gracie, and he tells the story of Robbie Williams in such a beautiful way. It's fast-paced, it's energetic, it is sparkly, and it has all of those fun musical numbers, great choreography, just a thrilling movie to watch.
Yeah, I went into this movie not ready to be excited about it and loved it. And so it's obviously a natural segue that anytime you're doing a movie that's so inherently tied to music and performance, it would be it. And I am a huge Robbie Williams fan.
Were you a teenage girl in 1999?
Yes, I was. As a matter of fact, I was a teenage girl in 1999. No, I've got a story behind how I came to know Robbie Williams that I'll get to in a minute. In the meantime, got a chance to sit down with the director to talk about it. Take a look. Dude, good to see you again.
Great to see you again.
Awesome work in this.
Thank you.
I know, I'm not the typical demo that would tell you this, but I'm a huge Robbie Williams fan.
Really?
And I'll tell you why. Because I was doing a set visit to a James Bond movie at Pinewood Studios in London, 1999, and a group of people I had just made friends with said, "We're jumping on a train to Paris, we're gonna go see Robbie Williams." I said, "I'm in. Who's Robbie Williams?" Well, yeah, fast forward 3 hours later, I'm a huge fan and have been since. So
that's
brilliant.
amazing. Not many people in America know who Robbie is.
I would say, not as many as should, but maybe now, right?
Yeah, maybe, hopefully.
It is a natural transition to make The Greatest Showman and then a movie about someone who arguably is the greatest showman. Because within the movie, it says that certain something, what is it? Whatever it is, you have it. And that's it.
He does. And also that's a credit to Jono Davies because it's hard for Jono to perform a character and you're saying to him, yeah, you've got to have the same swagger and the same charisma and be that person that when you walk in the room, everyone stares at you. And as an actor, Jono did that immaculately. I think Jono captured Robbie in his performance just incredibly well.
Absolutely. When I see a perfect movie, I try to step back and go, how did the planets align to make this a perfect movie? And I think you're uniquely qualified to make specifically this movie. There are very few people whose background is as strong as yours is in digital arts and visual video creation in that way. Before you stepped into the role of directing, certainly you could foresee how mirroring this take on this subject would work.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. It's a very, my background obviously is in animation and visual effects. And then you add my experience on my first film, which was a big musical, and you sort of bringing those two elements together. It is a kind of perfect fit.
Talk about the toughest day, the biggest hurdle that paid off well.
Oh, I mean, there are so many tough days on this. This was an unbelievably difficult film to make. I think one of the biggest ones was Regent Street, obviously the rock DJ sequence where they dance down the street. That's
Beautiful.
the biggest musical number I've ever done. And it took a year and a half to plan and organize. And right when we were about to start shooting, the Queen died. And so we weren't able to film. We'd spent all the money. We'd booked all the dancers, all the crew, paid out all the shops. And so in that moment, I had producers and financiers saying, just cut the number. You're done. You spent the money. And I was like, no, you don't understand. We need this number. It's actually the only number in the entire film where Rob isn't being tormented by versions of himself. It is literally the moment of pure joy where he's just signed his first contract, and we see in his head the sort of moment from going to obscurity to being chased down the street by thousands of people.
I don't wanna ride, DJ, but you're making me feel
Scene. Oh my gosh, you talk about overcoming adversity. For those who don't know, he was just saying when they were shooting that scene, it's the equivalent of having to close down Broadway, and that scene was to be shot on the day the Queen had died.
Absolutely insane.
Awesome. And also, if you don't know Robbie Williams, coming up in a moment, I'm going to tell you exactly how I'm connected to Robbie Williams. But you were saying, like, it's a big deal that it's obscure in America.
It is funny. I think there's a broad swath of Americans that might not know who Robbie Williams is. And it's funny, even in Ted Lasso, the series, they made a joke about it, where they had hired him to perform at this big gala, and he canceled last minute, and everyone's freaking out. And Jason Sudeikis is like, who is that? I've never heard of him before. But you don't actually need to know who Robbie Williams is or enjoy his music to love this film, because it hits on so many other levels.
So true. When you look at the trailer, you go, what the hell? Well, it's going to make sense once you see it.
Yeah.
And by the way, the last week of my life, I've spent every single moment of every single day explaining who Robbie Williams is. Coming up in a moment, I'll keep explaining and tell you why I know of the Robbie Williams from a long time ago. That and more, as we continue, we'll join up with the two stars who bring it to life, this number specifically, next. Hey, welcome back to Take a Look. We're about done, but you're here just in time as we continue and wrap up our discussion of Better Man. It's the Robbie Williams story, to which a lot of people say, who's Robbie Williams? Google him. He's amazing, and the story is compelling. How much did you love it?
I absolutely loved it. I couldn't keep my eyes off the screen. I barely even drank water.
Yeah, now as you watch the trailer, you're going to see that it is this musical number, these great performances, but the lead appears to be a monkey. Do we have any idea why he's being portrayed as a chimp?
I think, at least for me personally, it helps you to connect a little bit more with that character when you're looking at the sweet eyes of this monkey who is experiencing this broken childhood, addiction, fame, feeling like he's never quite enough. It just allows you to empathize. I think we all have that little voice inside us, right, Mark? Even the most famous people that walk the planet that sometimes speaks up and says, you're never enough.
It's the biopic you didn't know you need to see. You're going to love it. Jonna brings him to life so well, as does Rochelle. Her part, we talk. Take a look. You too. Good to see both of you. I know I'm not the demo, but I am the biggest Robbie Williams fan and have been for decades.
Yes.
And there's a reason, because I was on the set of a James Bond movie at Pinewood Studios, and a group of new friends I'd made said, we're taking the train to Paris tonight because Robbie Williams is playing. I took it instantly, starting in 1999. I was a true fan.
99?
So I've been geeked out about this for a long time.
Wow.
Talk about the two of you stepping into this. Talk about your journey when you were first introduced.
I, just like anyone else, came through as an email audition, and I was very aware the movie was being made. I also was a fan for a long time, but the monkey thing only came in this email, so I was a bit like, oh, right, sure, we'll see how that goes, and it was just sort of built up from there. I didn't know it was a dance opportunity as well until later, and then I got to meet this lovely person once I got to Australia, and I never thought it would keep getting better, and it just has. It's been a really exciting experience.
All right, on to you, lovely person. So when you get the call, we've got good news, but there is a layer, quite literally a layer on top of this good news. How do they pitch you?
What was awesome for me is when you do these sort of scale productions or audition for them, you self-tape, right? It's throwing stuff to the wall and seeing what sticks. Whereas the first thing was a call with Michael, him kind of laying down the land and saying, we're playing him as a monkey. This is him as a young boy, this is him as a man, and that's the bookends of the story. So if you were to get the role, it'd be your responsibility to show the human within this chimp, right? Amazing, like creatively so inspiring. I didn't find out I got the role until I was in Australia. I had like a last minute audition there. They flew me out. And so it was actually Michael that told me to my face, you've got the job, which was such a beautiful moment.
That doesn't
you know.
happen. That's so nice.
Yeah.
Usually through your agent and stuff. So that was awesome.
And was there a bear hug? Like how?
Oh, like bear hug. I think there was a few tears, but you know.
That's the jet lag.
Yeah, that's the jet lag. Yeah.
Aw.
But then it was only when I got the role I actually knew how big the production was. It was like, right, just sign that. Okay, so you're on stage in front of 20,000 people in 5 days, no drama. And then you're going to Serbia and you're doing a whole concert there and blah, 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 blah. And it was just this whirlwind of, oh, we're really making something here, like of the largest scale. And to be the lead of that was such a privilege. To work with Michael, you know, we all say it, but he is such a true captain. He's not only the visionary, he's not as intelligent as he is, but in terms of as a person, the passion that he shares with everyone on set trickles down, and I think you can see that in our movie. Everyone took such great care with it.
They are so good, and so good in this movie, and I will be the first to say my apologies to the filmmakers for when I saw that trailer, I said, what the hell is this? And it ends up being one of my favorite movies, and I'll say this, go see it on the big screen. You're gonna be surprised much in the same way if you were surprised at how great The Greatest Showman was, and for obvious reasons. Why do you think they should see it on the big screen?
Oh, absolutely, big screen. It's too big, bold, and beautiful to be viewed at your home, on your home TV. The cinematography, the storytelling, it really deserves to be in the theater.
Amen, Lindsay. All right, Lindsay Nader, where do they find you on Instagram?
Lindsay Moves.
Awesome. I'm at TV Marcus Allen on Instagram. If you missed any part of the show, it's repurposed on YouTube. Just make sure you be the polite person and like and subscribe. All right, have a great rest of your awesome week, and you as well. Be safe out there. And next week, Mark Wahlberg, our guest. Flight Risk. When's the last time you had a good Mark Wahlberg action movie? Yeah, well, here comes another one. You'll join us next week. Have a good one. Peace out.